Here
Sounds
we go.
good.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another POTA Hunters series of episodes here in Cliff's Notes on Amateur Radio. Super delighted to have Kevin join us today. Kevin, aka KEGMan. I think I've heard you. This is a little bit of an exaggeration, but it feels like even if there's been weeks or months between activations, it feels like every activation I've ever done, KEGMan shows up in the pileup. And I know that you're probably like second, actually, no, you're third place. I've got two friends of mine in the Northern Kentucky amateur radio community, and they have had ham alerts set up ever since I got my general license. And they're constantly hunting me down in all of the parks. But you're third on my list. And not only that, Kevin, one of the other things I've done oftentimes when I get into a park, or if like when I first get there, or if things get really slow because of the bands, I'll go see if anybody else is activating, and I'll hunt up and down the bands for park to park QSOs, and I almost always hear you busting through a pileup. And so I thought, man, I would love to get to know a little bit more about you. What is it about parks on the air, and specifically your passion for hunting? So, first of all, tell me, how do I say your last name? Is it Giebel or Geibel?
Giebel, like Giebel.
All right,
But don't
Giebel.
worry, I tell people I've been called a lot worse. You really can't mispronounce it.
All right. So, Kevin, start us off with telling us a little bit about how you got into amateur radio.
Sure. Actually, I was like most others, I did the early radio, CB radio, and I had some scanners, and I just enjoyed listening to the scanners because it gave me a sense of what's going on in the community. Hang on a minute, I got these kegs in the way. Sorry.
So
I got
you
all these kegs here and I don't know really what to do with them. There we
so
go.
so what's the kegs
Um,
about? How did you get the nickname Kegman?
I got the nick. Well, some years ago when I was with in the office, um, I had to approve certain things, and I would sign off with my initials. And people would say, "Well, have the kegman look at it, or have the kegman sign off on it." Way back in the old days, right? When I passed my extra, I was looking for a vanity, like a 1x2, 2x1. And I was like 0 for 12 with the FCC. What they do is they put apps in a big hat and they kind of pull out people's names, the applications. And I just kept losing. So I got kind of crabby. And so I thought what I'm going to do is expand my search for a vanity into a 1x3. And the first thing that came up was Whiskey Zero Kilo Echo Germany. And so at that time, I didn't think that people would know me as the keg man, although I brewed my own beer and I enjoy beer and other beverages, and including non-alcoholic beverages. But those are my initials, KEG. And so I thought, great, I'll grab it. And so I started using Whiskey Zero Kilo Echo Germany. And then I think QRZ was wondering if there was a nickname that I would go by. And I put in their kegman, and the rest is, as they say, history. But I've really liked the call sign. People have been very kind to the kegman. And I think it's worked out well for me calling in when I contest, when I sweepstake, that kind of thing. So that's kind of how I became the keg man. But many years ago, those were my initials, and people would refer to me as the keg man.
I love it. So, by the way, for those who are listening to this in audio form, because we have an audio podcast, which is, by the way, the primary method of content that I create around Cliff's Notes on amateur radio, I had no idea that you would be lifting up a keg during the live stream version of this. So it just blew my mind. That's why we get okay. So let's go back to, you got started in radio because you were into scanners, CB radio. How long ago were you into radio, and when did you first get licensed in amateur radio?
Okay, I've been involved with CB radio since I was a pup. It was years ago, and I got into scanners when my wife and I, my ex-wife and I moved to St. Paul, and I was digging around and I found an old scanner, an old Kenwood scanner, and it didn't work anymore. And so I was just going online to see if I could replace it because it was analog and digital didn't come through anymore. And so I was looking just online and came across some HTs, a Baofeng, some of these other HTs, and I bought a couple just thinking, I might be able to scan. But then I found out that Stillwater has a really nice repeater. And I was just asking around, how do I program it? And so I contacted my cousin John, who's big into ham radio. And he and I are brothers. And he said, you can't talk on it unless you get licensed. And I should have known that, but I didn't. And so he recommended me to go to uh, the Sarah Club here in Stillwater Amateur Radio Association. And I did, and got involved with the local club, and through that, uh, got my licensing. And so I've actually only been a ham for about a year and a half. So
What? There's no
yeah,
way.
and yeah, I know people. I use that as an excuse, Cliff. I say, hey, I've only been a ham for a year and a half, and I play that card as a wild card when I screw up. I say, hey, I've been a ham for a year and a half. Give me a break. But I've been really lucky. I've had good Elmers, and members of our club have been just great. They sold me my first radio. I got licensed, and next thing you know, I'm on the air, for good or for bad. Um, and the Sarah group has a number of nets, and I started on 2 meter 440 and did some simplex, and then just kind of from there muddled my way through as I learned. And so I had a Kenwood 590S. I got a Astron power source, and I was off to the races. But I used my HTs, and I had a 991, bought a 991 Alpha. So I dabbled in HF, and I could still then communicate through 2 meter with the local repeater or the local rad shoes. And the 991 Alpha also has a proprietary Fusion digital. And we have a Fusion net as well on Saturdays. So that's kind of how I got started, and kind of accumulated antennas as I went. Still don't have the 75-foot tower that we all want, 6-element Yagis, but that's more of a negotiation that I really need to prepare for with my XYL, because she's not a big fan of big antennas in the backyard. So, I have a dipole, I have a ZEP. I was able to scrounge and pick up my high gain 630 from a club member, from Dick, Whiskey Zero DIK, who has been great with helping me get things working in my shack. So it's all been kind of a progression. I've relied a lot on people's kindness to tell me what works, what doesn't work. And I still don't have my tower. So I'm hoping, Cliff, that you'll help me. That's part of the deal, you remember, for me coming on the podcast.
Yeah,
And
I do
anybody
remember
else who's
that.
willing to help me to intervene with my XYL, who has the magical words, because I haven't found him yet, but that's my goal.
So there are a couple of things. First of all, you might want to connect with Mike Sambuco, who is AL7KC. He was episode number 18, I think, of Cliff's Notes on Amateur Radio. And he's from Alaska, but has some incredible tower work experience. So definitely somebody who knows a lot about towers. I would definitely encourage you to connect with him. And I'm
Oh,
happy
yes.
to make an introduction. But here's what I want to do. So a year and a half. I would have never guessed that you were just licensed a year and a half ago. That's not too much earlier. I mean, it's right about the same time for me. I was licensed for the first time in September of 2024 as a tech, and then in August of 2024, and I got my general the very next month in September of 2024. So you haven't been a ham much longer than myself, but I'm looking here on your POTA stats, and I see that you have already hunted down 6,545 different parks, and you've got 34,330 QSOs with people who are activating in those 6,545 545 parks. How do you do that in just over a year?
Well, a couple of things. People who hear me, they usually figure out I haven't been an amp for very long. Like I said, they've been very patient with me. Hopefully, I'm becoming a little more proficient. Um, I'm lucky. My business is remote, and so I can kind of do both. But don't tell anybody. I'm guessing this is just between you and me, and
Oh,
nobody's going to see this.
nobody will ever see this.
No, and this is all strictly confidential. But I can hunt and review crusty contracts and even sit in on certain meetings at the same time. And it's both good and bad, because the good is that I can hunt, and I love hunting. And the other thing is, the bad thing is I really can't activate, because I'd like to spend more time in the parks, but I'm on call, and I can't really be somewhere remote in a park and then need to be on a Zoom call in 20 minutes. So,
Okay, so I want to introduce you to the Starlink Mini. $299 purchase.
hang on, let me get that. I'm taking notes, and anybody who has any recommendations, I'm taking notes, because this is going to be as much a learning experience as it is a pleasure chatting with you.
Sure.
So I'm just going to take some notes. Okay, go ahead. You said Starlink?
So Starlink Mini, it is currently running at $299 for the hardware, and you own it. And they have two plans that are for what we call roaming, which allows you to pretty much be anywhere. As long as there's access to the open sky, you have access to high-speed internet. They have a plan that is a 50 gigabyte plan, and that is $50 for the month, and it gives you 50 gigabytes. And if you go over the 50 gigabytes, it's $1 per gigabyte that you go over. Now, if you are going to be out a lot and you know you're going to use more than 50 gigabytes in a single month, they do have an unlimited plan, and the unlimited as of today is $165 a month. But if you're going to be out, did you say that's a lot or it's not much?
No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's cheap.
It's for unlimited, and this is unlimited, incredibly high speed internet. Way more than enough not only could you do Zoom calls, but for me, if I wanted to, I could actually be live streaming. You and I are on Zoom right now, and I'm live streaming at the same time. I happen to be doing it from home, but with my Starlink Mini, I could actually be doing this from a park. I mean, and not only in a park, but Kevin, I could be doing this from a park in the middle of Kentucky, 17 miles away from the closest cell signal.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and I got to chat more about this, Cliff, because like I said, I'm a baby ham, and I admit it. And I'm kind of a goofball, but I generally can learn. I'm trainable. So this is a good idea. I'd like to talk to you more about that.
Well, do you have any
And
questions right now about it?
uh, you know, I use a hotspot, but sometimes that's not so reliable.
Yeah,
But
no.
Starlink, no, go ahead.
Yeah, well, hotspot requires that you have access to a cell tower, a signal,
Yes, yes.
whereas this does not. So you could be out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, absolutely nowhere. And as long as you have access to an unobstructed sky, which I've been out to 55 or 57 different parks in the state of Kentucky, and there hasn't been a single time that I haven't been able to have enough access to the open sky to give me a high-speed internet connection. And
I'm gonna.
in fact, I even bought a special mag mount that instead of the just the stand that it has, because if I was out in a high wind situation, like for example, I went up to the top of the Smoky Mountains, wind gusts like 30 miles per hour or stuff like that, and actually a little higher than that, it would just blow right off the top of my car. Whereas I went and bought this mag mount, and so it's magnet right on top of the roof of my car, and I just point it to the north and open sky, and I think it's like 200, 300 megabits per second up and down, at least that.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, I'll look into that. I actually, I'm going to have more opportunities to activate. In fact, if you wouldn't mind, the Sarah Group, my club here in Stillwater, has an event coming up next weekend. So I'd like to shout out that event. We're going up to the Split Rock Lighthouse north of Duluth for a special event, the observance of the 50th anniversary of the loss of the Edmund Fitzgerald,
Oh, wow.
which was, yeah, it was a very traumatic uh, event. 29 souls were lost. And we really feel that up there when we're up there. They're going to light the lighthouse, which hasn't been lit for many years, but it's the 50th. So this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we're going to be activating two parks with the call sign Whiskey Zero Juliet Hotel. That's Whiskey Zero Juliet Hotel, and it's the club call. And we plan on observing that very significant event in Minnesota history up at the lighthouse.
Yeah.
So we
And
invite people to join us for that event, and I'm really looking forward to it. Uh, I was able to attend last year for the 49th, but this year they're going to actually light the lighthouse, and they're expecting big crowds up there. Now, it's a very solemn event, and all of our club members recognize that. But we're also going to be showing our respect by activating the two parks in a park house there, uh, just about 300 yards from the lighthouse. But it's beautiful up there. There's still some good colors. It's right on the lake. So, we invite people to call in, or those who wish to make the trek, to come visit us up at the lighthouse.
well, I'll certainly try to hunt you guys down. Whiskey Zero Juliet Hotel. I'll be on the lookout, and I'll even set up a
Yeah.
ham alert for it so that I can get the notifications once you guys are spotted.
Oh, that's great. And if you don't mind, a little shout out to my club members, Joe and Brian and Matt and Leslie. Leslie says I use the word brother too much when I hunt, but I truly mean it. I consider activators to be our brothers and sisters, and I really enjoy them that much. Kurt, Buck. Buck is great. A lot of these people are responsible for my knowledge of ham radio. And like Zach, for example, I bought my amp from Zach, and he's more knowledgeable than anybody I've ever met when it comes to ham radio, radios, antennas, amps, all that good stuff. But we're going to be up there, you know, and we're really looking forward to it. And these are some of the people who are going to be on the mic. Teresa Bryan, Bob, Greg, Keith, Max, who helped put up my Zep. A lot of these people are responsible for me being on the air, or responsible, I should say, at fault for getting me on the air. So thanks for letting me make that shout out.
Absolutely. My pleasure. So, a couple of things that I want to do. First of all, I want to close the loop on the Starlink Mini, because this is the first time I've really mentioned the Starlink Mini on Cliff's Notes on Amateur Radio. And I do want to make a note for those who are a little bit more budget conscious. And we know that there are some hams in the community that are very much tight with the budgets. And I want to say that if you make that $299 purchase for the Starlink Mini, they actually have this ability for you they used to have the ability to pause your subscription at any time. And so
Oh,
you could go 7 months out of the year, not be using the thing, go out for a weekend activation, turn it on for 50 gigabytes, and then turn it back off. And it would be called pausing it. But they got rid of that. And instead, they went to a third plan called the standby plan. And you can move to the standby plan at any time throughout the month or throughout the year. And the
mm-hmm.
standby plan is $5 a month. And when you're on the standby plan, you get unlimited bandwidth at a very low speed. We're talking like lower than 300 kilobits per second. And the reason
Oh,
why they got rid of the pause plan is because with the Starlink Mini, for you to turn your internet active or subscription on, you needed to have access to the internet. And there were many
Oh.
people who went out to a campsite way afar from cell signals, and so they couldn't open up the app and turn on the thing. They'd had to drive somewhere where there's a cell signal, activate their subscription, and then go back. And so they got rid of the pause feature and left an unlimited bandwidth, very low speed, called the standby plan, $5 a month. Here's the interesting thing, Kevin. For me, I wanted the Starlink Mini not so that I could do live stream and so that I could do Zoom calls and stuff like that. Sure, occasionally I go away for a 2-week personal retreat and I want that high-speed bandwidth. But the reason why I got the Starlink Mini for amateur radio was for 2 reasons. Number one, I would go park to park, and I'd get somewhere, and the GPS took me there, and I have no cell signal, and I have no idea where my next park is, and I'm not able to pull up directions to the next park or directions to anywhere for that matter. And so that was kind of frustrating. I'd have to keep driving around randomly until I found a cell signal and then find out where I'm at and where I'm supposed to go next. But also, getting spotted and being able to do QRZ lookups while I'm doing a park activation when there's no cell connectivity. Sure, it's a part of the fun, it's a part of the challenge, but I also love activating quickly, getting to the next park as quickly as possible. I like to activate anywhere between 6 to 12 parks in a single day sometimes. And
Oh
so
yeah, get your roads going.
exactly. And so for me, being able to look up, being able to spot myself, being able to do the QRZ lookups, confirm that I've got the right contact information, and also being able to pull up directions to my next spot without cell connectivity. The interesting thing is that even though it is 300 kilobits per second or slower, it is unlimited. And that's all I need to be able to do QRZ lookups, spot myself, and get GPS coordinate details to the next location. So for $5 a month, I could actually do everything I want to do for park activations, and that's pretty wild. And I just wanted to close the loop on that. Any other questions about that or any comments?
No, no, thank you so much for providing that. I'm just looking at this. You can get some of the hardware on Amazon, and it talks about what I'm looking at. Starlink Mini includes Roam 50 gigabytes, 50 a month, Roam Unlimited 165, and Standby 5 a month. Mini is designed for travel and portability, and the Roam plan is offering different data allowances. So I appreciate that. I will definitely get a subscription.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah,
it.
that answers a lot of questions for me. So I appreciate that.
Sweet. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, I think that I have a referral code, and if I give you a referral, you get like a first month free or something like that, and I get a month free. Not that you need to do it, but I'll send you an email
Yeah,
after we're done.
send me an email. What kind of satellite dish do you use?
It's Starlink Mini.
Okay, the Starlink Mini, because there's many choices on Amazon. All right,
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so going back to you're able to work remotely from home, and because of that, it sounds to me like at any point throughout the day that you want to, you just got the radio sitting there. Sounds to me like you have a Yaesu 991A, and you basically are just how are you getting notified of things? What app are you using, or are you loading up the POTA page? Are you ham alerting people? Tell me what is your process?
Sure. Actually, I've kind of upgraded my shack. My 991 Alpha I've used for mostly field work, for field days, and when we're out in the parks with my group. I use an Elecraft K4D,
Oh, that's a
and
nice radio.
yeah, well, like I said, I bought the KPA 500 from Zach. He upgraded to a 1K. Uh, and sold his 500 to me. And now I think, again, don't tell anybody. I think he wants it back, but I haven't been able to give it back. But I got the 500 from him, and then found that the auto tuner, the Cat 500, worked well. And I think the recommendation I got, Cliff, was if I'm going to have an Elecraft, the KPA 500, it makes sense to have an Elecraft system. So I bought the auto tuner, Cat 500, and then the K4D. And there's a K4 HD coming out. Again, this is all kind of purchased without the XYL endorsing it. So again, we got to keep that on the down low too. Um, I'll ask for forgiveness instead of permission when it comes to explaining that. But my shack is I have my 991 Alpha. I've got my Kenwood that I play with. But when I'm POTA hard and ham harding, I use my K4D and my Elecraft amp and auto tuner. And then
Gotcha.
I've got my vertical. I've got a dipole that works really well. Uh, Dave, one of our club members, has the OXB Special, which is a dipole, and he's great. He helps you put that together with the ladder wire and with the right balun and everything, and so it works great. So I have wires in my trees in my backyard that so far I've gotten away with, and I don't know why I've been able to get away with all of that, because my wife is real visual. She's an artist, and I don't know if she actually knows what those are. I tell them that they blew in, from the neighbor, and that we'll move them out someday. But she never follows up on that. Uh, and then I use a ZEP, which just recently put up from Palomar, that is gets me pretty good signals. And I can DX with them too. But in terms of hunting, I've really gotten good signals with those three options and my K4D.
So let me make sure I'm understanding everything correctly. So you're using an Elecraft radio. You have a
Hang on a
500 amp amplifier, and you 500 watt amplifier, and you're
Yes.
using do you have multiple different vertical wire antennas, dipole antennas for
I do
different
have
bands?
I do. I use my ZEP for 40 primarily.
So tell me what
Uh,
the ZEP is. I'm not familiar with the term ZEP.
well, a ZEP is it's got two wires, and you've got a pigtail, you've got a central location. When you drop ladder wire down from that into a one-to-one balun, and
Okay.
that's pretty much all it is. Max, my buddy from Sarah, helped me put up one about 3 or 4 months ago, but we were having trouble getting it tuned. It would detune. Now we had a 4-to-1 balun, which was apparently the problem. Uh, and it's a nice Palomar balun, but I called Bob at Palomar, and he's great. He knows everything. He's got an antenna farm out in the backyard. Uh, so I plan on going over there and stealing a bunch of them sometime. Maybe you can join me. But he said, no, you need a 1-to-1 balun on that. The problem was the 4-to-1 was getting oversaturated. And so he set me up with kind of a new setup, and it's in my trees now, uh, far enough away where my wife hasn't really seen them yet. So again, we need to keep this on the down low because, more wires in the tree. But it's good for 20. It's good for 40. It's not so hot for 15, but it's good for 80, for 12, for 17. And so I've been able to activate or hunt more often, more bands with better signals. So I
Excellent.
switch between the three. Yeah, depending on which is the best signal. And I've just been lucky. I've just really been lucky.
So how do you make the decision of when and who to hunt down?
Well, there's a bunch of those that are favorites of mine. Of course, I like to find those that have 2 furs, 3 furs, 6 furs, 7 furs. And of course, everybody knows Dell and James Mon. These guys, uh, they're in multi-bands, and they're also uh, multiple parks. So I'm starting to recognize a lot of those activators uh, that are just friends of mine. I just like, you know. Um,
So so you have a group of people that you've come to really enjoy because either it's their personality when they're out there activating, and or it sounds to me like you really like the the rewards of multiple parks and multiple bands and all of the 2 furs, the 6 furs, and stuff like that. So for those people, is there a method that you use? Do you use ham alerts to get notified of those individuals? Have you set that up for each of those, or how are you getting notified when they're active?
I go straight off the POTA page, the spot
Okay.
page. I don't use Ham Alert.
Have you
Um,
ever used ham alert?
yeah, I've used it once or twice, but I
Okay.
haven't used it for probably a year. Only because I can find who's out in the parks by looking at the POTA spot page.
Yeah.
And then I just recognize, I'm beginning to recognize call signs, like Dell, November 2, November Whiskey Kilo, James Mon, Kilo Echo 8, Papa Zulu November. Scott is great. Kilo 3, Sierra Delta Mike. And I also am pretty free with giving my phone numbers. So I enjoy talking to a lot of these operators off band, off frequency. A lot, well, like Scott, and Jeff, November 3, Foxtrot Mike Charlie. Everybody knows
Oh yeah.
Ford Motor Company.
Ford Motor
Uh,
Company.
and he's just a great guy, and we communicate. And that's part of the enjoyment I get out of being a ham operator and a POTA hunter. I have contact with these wonderful, great, classy individuals by email, by QSO cards, by texting, you know. And so I will hear from some of these individuals. They'll say, well, how are the bands today? How's 20, 40, how's 17? And I'll give them my lame opinion. And there are some that will follow me to see what kind of signal reports I'm giving and getting, which is very complimentary, but probably not too accurate. Uh, but I start to recognize, and I really like the people I hunt, like Brian, Whiskey One, Whiskey Charlie, and his lovely wife, Anna. And then when you start exchanging the QSL cards, there's more of a connection. And then ultimately, I was in Huntsville this last year, and that was just a candy store for me because I got to meet a lot of these really wonderful operators, hunters, ham operators, put a face to the call sign, and just share stories. So a lot of these individuals, like Victor Echo 3, Papa Tango Alpha, Stephen, he and I have become good friends uh, through hunting. And so I look forward to talking not only with new hams that are out there, because every once in a while activators will get on and it'll be their first or second uh, activation, but I do a lot of hunting and I hear a lot of the same individuals and I just enjoy and look forward to talking with them.
That's what I wanted to learn. Because for me, I have not yet found the best solution for an antenna here at home. I do live in an HOA. I have a wooded lot. I've got some access to some trees, and I can hide some stealth wire back there, but I haven't yet worked out the details of the particular installations. But that's probably best that I haven't, because I also work from home. I work for myself, and I'd I'd probably be tempted to be on the radio all day, every day, and I I don't have that same ability to multitask that maybe that you do. So I'm not looking over crusty contracts. I need to be making connections with potential clients, following up on relationships and stuff like that. And when I first got licensed, amateur radio was a bit of a distraction for me. So in many ways, that I've intentionally stalled the HF antenna installation in the backyard.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, I have. It's more of a personal accountability for myself. It's like, listen, you know what? Do your work today. Stay focused here, and let's go out and do a double activation an hour before UTZ 0, and get 2 activations in. Knock out a couple hundred QSOs, and take over another leaderboard somewhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just remember when you start getting on HF, that's a slippery slope
Oh, I
because
know.
it opens up such a world. And I was thinking about retirement, and how to stay off the mean streets and stay out of jail. And I'm thinking, how can I stay active doing something? I'm kind of an electronic head a little bit. And so it had all the ingredients for me. I was able to meet people, talk to new people, deal with electronics, which I love to do, and also learn. It was a new area that I knew very little about, that I was really interested in learning about. And there's the learning curve on this is endless, you know. And so I dived in with what I could handle, and I've learned a lot. And I still am learning. And I learned from you the Starlink thing. That's a great idea. So it offers me something I was looking for, Cliff. Uh, Aside from, I have a Harley and I like to ride. So, I rode my motorcycles, for that matter, to Huntsville and had a great time. So I'm trying to find ways of enjoying free time that I will have more of coming up. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you been, or do you ever have any desire to go to the Dayton Hamvention?
I did. I had planned actually to go. I have a new granddaughter, my wife and I have a new granddaughter that lives in Denver. And my wife went to Denver to hang out with the little progeny and got into some bad weather down there. And so she ended up staying longer. And so it conflicted with my Dayton trip. So
Okay.
but I plan on going I'm planning on going to Hamfest in February in Orlando. And then if I can, get permission, I'll go to Dayton. And then ultimately there's talk of some of us skydiving, yeah, in the week before
Oh, wow.
Huntsville. Yeah, a Kilo 4 Alpha Alpha and Eastern Standard Time and those guys. But Mary, I call her Nisa. People call her Nisa. You probably know who I'm talking about. She's wonderful. She has one of the best voices on the band, and I always tell her that. But she said, a group is going to go skydiving. KEGMan, are you up for it? And I'm like, okay. So I've been trying to get more people either to jump with me or to clean up the mess afterwards. You
Hmm.
know, one of the two things. But yes, I'm planning to go. Are you going to Dayton?
Yeah, well, I live in Cincinnati. Oh, well, actually, I live in
Oh,
northern Kentucky, which is right across the river from Cincinnati, Ohio. But Dayton's only like an hour and 20-minute drive or something like that. So it was total no brainer for me. But yeah, I went up for my very first Dayton Hamvention this year, and
okay.
it was a
I heard it was
blast.
great.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got to meet Jim Reed, who does the video instructions for ham radio prep. I got
Okay.
to meet Salty Walt from Coastal
Yes.
Waves and Wires.
Yes.
And I also got to meet in person Jim Newcomb from Lido Radio Products, who I've interviewed on my podcast in the past, and it's a good relationship going there. So yeah, Dayton Hamvention is phenomenal. I don't think I will do my best to make sure I never miss that. And if you come out this next year, let me know what day you're going to be there, and I'll make sure to meet up with you. I'd love to.
Yeah. I'll text you my phone number so you can text me. That's really a good way for people to say, hey, I'm here or I'm there.
Yeah.
Where are you? Let's meet up. And it worked well for Huntsville. One of my dear buddies from the Sarah group, uh, Whiskey Zero November Kilo Alpha, Shane Wonka. He went to Dayton with another one of our club members, TBB Brian. We call him TBB Brian, and he ran into uh, Toby down there,
Oh yeah, is that Alpha
and
Charlie Delta?
Alpha Delta Two, Charlie Delta,
That's it. Alpha
and
Delta 2
and
Charlie Delta.
she is wonderful.
She is.
She's the hands down queen of POTA.
Yeah.
But back then, she and I were kind of in the same neighborhood with our QSO totals. And so Shane thought it would be great to take a picture and torture me and send a picture of her saying, get back to work. But she's wonderful. And that's the other thing about people I've met, especially people like Toby and Jeff and, some of these others that are competitive, but just really good operators and great, spectacular hunters.
So I have a question for you, Kevin. This is something that I've wondered. Have you had any conversations with the female radio operators on their opinions of being called YLs? The very first time I heard that this is a thing, I'm like, that that feels weird. And lately I found myself one or two times I could tell there was a female voice in a pileup, but down below everyone else. And it's been over a year that I've been licensed. And it's the first time I ever said, I think I heard a YL voice in there, YL voice only. And I felt so weird saying that. Has this ever come up? Have you ever thought about this? This young lady. We it's like, oh, everybody who's a female in amateur radio is called a YL. Has that ever crossed your mind?
It has, but here's why it doesn't have the bad connotation. It always kind of is kind of unusual when I refer to my wife as my XYL, especially with the X in it. You know,
Well,
she might
that was
not
going to be my
understand.
next question, is because I'd heard of YL, and I'm sitting here thinking, wait, you need to get a permission slip for more antennas from your X. What is an XYL?
Well,
So that was
here's
going to be my next question.
yeah, well, here's why it's okay. I think it's okay because it is expressed with respect and a certain recognition of women. And when I'll say there's a YL in the pilot, most activators will pull them out first. And so there's a benefit to being an X to be a YL. Is it unusual? Maybe, but not in the context of POTA or ham radio that I've experienced. And I've dealt with many wonderful women operators, and they've
Hmm.
never mentioned it to me.
Yeah.
Saying, well, does that bug you? Or because I may say, well, I'll stand by for the YL or something. And I have not heard anybody really object to it. If people objected to it, I wouldn't use it.
Yeah. I haven't heard anybody object to it either. And I've only ever heard it used respectfully, received
Yes.
respectfully. And it's the only reason I had the level of confidence I did when I actually used the phrase in a pileup recently. But I just wondered if it ever had crossed your mind. And of course, I look forward to having Toby and Rosanna and some other YLs from the
Yeah, ask
community.
them.
And
Ask them what
I'm
they
gonna
think about it.
definitely gonna ask them about it.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
not really qualified to tell you what a YL means to me,
yeah.
but I would say you hit it on the head. There's a lot of respect
Yeah.
by
Oh
those
yeah.
who use that. And if it came up where one or more of our sister operators objected or even called it into question, I wouldn't use it.
Yeah.
But it's used in a way that's respectful, that recognizes a woman in the pilot, and that we as male operators want to bring them in first and recognize the importance of their activity in POTA, because we're always trying to get more women operating. You
Hmm.
know, um, we've got a couple of women in our club, Leslie and some others that we really hope will be more active on the bands and on the frequencies, because they're just wonderful people, and it's still really male dominated. I won't say dominated, but there is a large percentage of men as opposed to women. So we always want to equalize that when we can.
Yeah.
And
No.
Emma's the other woman, by the way. So if she's watching this, Emma, Bo, now that she'll know what that means. But they're younger or newer hams uh, that we're hoping get involved more in POTA or DXing, or just maybe activating on their own or being our wingman. So we're hoping this weekend, for example, they're going to be on the mic, and we're really looking forward to them getting some experience on the frequencies.
Excellent. So, to my next question, you used the phrase XYL. I've never heard the phrase before, and I thought for a moment that it was your ex woman, your ex female, whatever. And so is XYL a term? And if not, I mean, what did you mean by XYL?
Well, I understood that to me and your wife. It always seems strange to
Okay.
say ex, and she might be my ex if she finds if she actually watches this.
She finds out what
Uh,
those wires are in the
Yeah,
backyard.
well, I thought, I've heard other people say XYL. I'm just going to take a peek because I want to make sure if I'm not using it. If I'm using it, it shouldn't be.
Oh,
Um,
that was not the question. I just wanted to know if there's a new phrase or term that I'm not aware of.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
in ham radio, XYL is an abbreviation that stands for the wife of a male amateur radio operator. So
Okay.
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go.
But again, if people were uncomfortable with that, I wouldn't use it.
No, it's not something I was calling into question. More than anything, it's like you know, what when I literally for the first few minutes of our conversation related to equipment, I thought it's like, wait a second. So I literally was hearing his ex-wife, and he's got to get permission from his ex-wife, and I'm like,
Um,
I'm sure this is going to come out in the conversation somewhere. And so isn't that weird that, I mean, I knew what YL is, and I heard
yeah,
XYL, and I didn't put the two and two together that the XYL meant the female partner of a amateur radio operator. And that
yes, wife
isn't
of a
that
male
weird that
amateur.
I thought of EXYL, my EXYL at my ex.
Well, I'm glad we clarified that
Yeah.
because she's not my ex. Although, although there are times when I refer to her as my first wife that she doesn't think that's funny. Um, but it says it now generally refers to the spouse, whether she is a licensed ham operator or not.
Gotcha.
The term is often shortened to mean. So I'm glad you raised that because yeah, that seemed a little strange with the whole X in there. But I'm still
Yeah,
not in that.
exactly. And I bring it up because I've been in amateur radio for just over a year now, and I feel like I'm fairly heavily invested, and I was confused by it. And so I
Well,
just
I'm heavily invested with my YL. Let's get that on the record.
I love it.
And you know what? It's amazing. I tell people this. It's amazing that people like you and I found women to marry us. So that's I look like a total goblin now. So I consider my lot in life with this lovely XYL. I'm very lucky. So, but one thing I would tell you, Cliff, is if I heard any objections at all to
Hmm.
any of those shorthand terms, I wouldn't use them. But I do hear them used pretty regularly, and people understand what they mean.
Yeah,
You know,
that's been my feeling is the same. Like I said, I wouldn't even dream of using them either, and I felt comfortable enough in a recent pileup to where it I felt like, okay, this woman who's calling is probably not going to be offended if I say I think I heard a YL in the pileup.
exactly,
and
exactly.
and so but I will tell you, inner dialogue was happening in the midst of our pileup.
Oh,
It's
the
like
inner dialogue. Oh, I'm
the
well familiar with the inner
the
dialogue
inner
and
dialogue.
the
It was
outer dialogue too. The outer dialogue. Uh, yeah, absolutely. But and there's something appropriate that when you got a bunch of loud, kilowatt crowd types that are in a train wreck pileup, and a YL comes on without the size of the voice that you do show that courtesy. It's like opening the door for a woman. Some people don't like that, I suppose, but I always do. And I consider bringing them out. I tell people I will always, always stand by for a while,
yeah,
or a park to park, or, people like Kilo Wade Gulf, Quebec, Terry. I'll always stand by when he's calling in. There's a courtesy there. There's a respect that's shown. And I think that's the intent of activators bringing in YLs over, pulling them out.
yeah. So you've done 5 activations. I'd love to hear what your experience on the activator side is, given that you're so heavily weighted on the hunter side of POTA.
Yeah, well, part of the reason was I didn't have Starlink, in my hip pocket to address that issue. But again, I was on call, and it felt bad for me to be paid for being on call and me doing something else. So that's one reason I didn't activate a lot, and I'm hoping to do more. I had the most wonderful, cool activation at Montesano in Huntsville. We did a 21 uh, op activation.
Wow.
And it went down to 18 because I don't know, someone went on a beer run or something. So we were at 21 and then 18. And I was on the mic for quite a while. I think I got something like 370 about activations. And that was one of the most fun times I've ever had. What was fun about that too is you got to be kind of freelance a little bit. You know, you talk about YLs. Is there a YL there? You know, YLs only. Well, for me, it was fun to say, okay, Viking fans only, or left-handed. You know, you got to be on your honor, left-handers only. And you probably, you know what that means. You know, are there any, any 6'4" tall redheads? Come now. So it was. I had a lot of help with logging. Uh, and I'm not really a good logger. I've got these meat hooks, and so when people say they've got fat fingers, well, they're talking about the KEGMan. Uh, but it was one of the most fun activations I've ever had. I had the Fox FX was there, Terry was there, Kilo 8 Del Quebec. I had James Kilo 8 Papa Zulu November. He was doing the logging. It had all the ingredients of the best event for me. I had the people there I love, I talked to all the time. I was there, they were there personally, and we had 21 ops, which meant, all the those at Ham Hard and POTA Hard are trying to get in because it's 21 contacts. And then
Yeah.
we went to 40, we went to 20, we went to 17. And someone can really generate some serious numbers with that number of ops. And there are others that do that once in a while. We call them the Hamily, that will do anywhere from 10 to 15 ops. And you probably have heard them activated. The other times I've been with buddies of mine, and they've been we had a poker run kind of deal. And so we're activating 5 parks. Uh, and that was just a lot of fun using a 991 Alpha with Max, who helped me put out my ZEP. And then some other guys showed up, and we had like 5 or 6. But I don't activate like some others do, like James or Dell or I'm going to do more activating. And this weekend, for example, is my start. I think probably more in the new year. I'll probably do more activating because I have an assignment that's going to be ending end of the year, maybe. And so I plan on doing more activating. And then those haters out there are saying, KEGMan never activates. He needs to go activate. I hopefully can address that by saying, okay, look, I'm actually activating. So I plan on doing more of that next year, and maybe not hunting as much as I do now, because I'm getting some kind of funny looks for my club members when we have a POTA challenge, and that's kind of how I got involved in POTA. I don't want to take a left turn, but that's what the KEGMan always does. I'm notorious for that. But we have a POTA challenge as part of our Sarah group, and that's what got me interested in POTA. And so I missed out on the higher awards last year by like 100 or 200. And so I thought, well, I want to get an early start, so I'm at least in the winner's circle with our POTA challenge. Well, next thing I know, I've got 2 or 3,000, and I'm like 3,000 ahead of the next guy. So that's how I got involved in POTA hunting.
Gotcha. So, what has been your experience with 2 meter, 70 centimeter since you've had this passion for POTA hunting? Do you find yourself active on the local repeaters?
Less active, less active, and there's a bunch of reasons for that. Uh, when I'm on the radio, well, like I said, HF is kind of a slippery slope. Um, there's a lot of POTA activity. There's a lot of DX activity. And in the last month or so, 15, 17, 12, 80 have been really good. And so I've been playing on those bands. Last year, when I had been relatively new, and I just got my 991 Alpha, which is a shack in the box, um, I used a portable vertical, a super antenna with a super antenna tripod. So I could break it, I could set it up, break it down every night. And then I was on 2 meter and 440, 70 quite a bit. And on the repeaters. There were some rag chews also that were done. We had fusion, but I just kind of changed my interest into HF
Yeah.
just because I was doing a lot of POTA and a lot of activators are still in the park at, you know, 1, 2, 3 hours Zulu. And so I'm still getting activations, which is, it's a pretty tempting thing to do. And plus I get a chance to talk to some of my friends on HF that I can't really on 2 meter. Also, Oakdale, Minnesota, had a really good repeater. They had 3 antennas that were part of a link repeater system, and they ended up taking it down to repaint a water tower. So they went off for a while. And the one in Stillwater, uh, it's only about an hour at a time. Their net is about an hour. The fusion's about an hour. There's a another net on the Oakdale repeater that is Insomniac net, which is fun because it starts at midnight. But I kind of moved when I got my Elecraft. It's just an HF,
Mm-hmm.
and I hooked up my Kenwood, which is just an HF. And so I packed away my 991 Alpha. And so I have not pulled that out for a while. So I generally don't like using HTs with repeaters for a variety of different reasons. Although I have a bunch of Baofangs. I've got, a bunch of others that are actually 10 watt. They're never really truly 10 watt, but I find that those signals are not as good than my 991 Alpha. And so and I would set up outside on my patio,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so I had all the equipment just inside the door here, which my XYL didn't really like. But now it's all packed up, and my HF is in my shack, and so I just haven't spent a lot of time on 2 meter or 440.
Yeah.
Sorry about the long explanation there,
No,
but
I appreciate the long explanation. I had a similar experience. I started out a lot on GMRS local repeater work before I got my
yeah,
tech license, and when I got my tech license, I was so excited to have access to all these other repeaters. Thankfully
exactly.
for me, I built some really incredible relationships with local people in. I live in a pretty significant area for amateur radio in the tri-state
Mm.
of Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. So it's a very vibrant local community, lots of repeaters. And I was like gangbusters building relationships locally. And but then when I got my general license and I was introduced to POTA, I mean, there were people who wondered if something happened to me because I went missing. And that's because I was out in the park. Every free minute I had for
Yeah.
radio, I was in a park activating. And eventually I would start showing up. I'd have like a little bit of time in the car, and I've got a FTM 500D in the car, and I'd show up on a local repeater, and they say, oh boy, I guess they're gonna have to do something with all those milk cartons they printed your picture on.
They can't find you. Well, yeah, there are activators that are out virtually every day, and we talked about some of them. Uh, I don't know if I can keep up that kind of schedule, but I love being in parks and I love activating, uh, and I love talking to people who are surprised to see me on the other side of that list. So I plan on doing more. Um, I just kind of got wrapped up in hunting. It gave me a chance to learn a lot. And I feel now I've gotten to a certain proficiency, although many people would not agree with that. I still dupe people once in a while, which is just a scourge. I hate doing that. Uh, but I do want to experience more of that side of POTA. Uh, and I'm one who likes to do it with like 3 or 4 other people. It's just a way of hanging out with the buds, some camaraderie. Maybe I tag along at KEG, which includes non-alcoholic beverages too, and apple cider and all that good stuff. But that to me, it's hard for me to kind of do it alone. I just haven't done it alone.
Hmm.
And I generally like wingmen or wingwomen to kind of hang out and just talk radio,
Yeah.
A lot of people will go out in the parks on their own and find just a wonderful, beautiful spot, and where it's quiet, and there's nobody around. And that too, I see I really see the advantage and the lure of doing that too. So that I have all that ahead of me. So it's really kind of exciting for me to think about that part of POTA.
Nice. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for investing an hour of your evening away from your very important hunting activities for POTA. I'm sure there are many activators out there wondering why I haven't heard from the KEGMan yet. My apologies to you all. I'll let you get back to it. Is there anything else you'd like to share? And specifically, would you happen to have a message for somebody who's been thinking about getting into amateur radio, but they just haven't made the commitment to study for that test?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much. It's been an honor, Cliff. You're one of the top activators, and people know you, and it was wonderful to hear from you with this invitation. With respect to others just trying ham radio, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. Uh, just try it out. What I have found is that operators are wonderfully helpful, wonderfully patient. I am the poster child for that. Uh, they're just classy, wonderful people, and people should just try it and not be afraid of it. It's a hobby. I tell people it's a hobby. All right. It's not rocket science, and it's meant to be user friendly. And the more we as operators can make that user friendly, the better. And that's why I just love hearing from some of the school events, the middle school, hearing young activators, you know what I'm talking about. I won't mention their names or their call signs, but they're 8, 9, 10 years old, and they're way ahead of the KEGMan, which isn't really a big step, but just try it. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. It's an affordable hobby. There are people who are around to help you, and there is so many benefits, I think, and I'll just say generally, to being part of the community, not only for emergency purposes, but for social purposes, for just expanding your horizons. I mean, I connected with the space shuttle. There are so many things that I've learned you can do as a ham operator. And just, the testing is not overcomable. There are 8, 9, 10-year-olds who get their licensing. Here I go rambling again. Imagine that. The KEGMan's rambling. But I just encourage people to try it. Talk to those who are ham operators to find out what it's like, how to get, and just attend a couple events where you're walking around with an HT. You're communicating with somebody who's 30 feet away. Just test it out. That's really a good opportunity to get a sampling of all the wonderful things I think that ham radio and its operators offer.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kevin, for your time. Real quick message to all of you out there. If you would like to get I think it's a free month or a free credit towards something on the Starlink Mini, I have a referral code. I'll put the information to that in the show notes for the video and also the audio podcast. If you are having trouble finding it, you can always email me, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com. Also, hamradioprep.com. If you use the promo code KQ4UUR, you'll get a percentage off of your exam prep study course. It's amazing. It's what I use to get 100% on the tech and the general. And KQ4UUR in the promo or in the coupon code box, and that'll save you some money over at hamradioprep.com. Any final words, Kevin?
Starlink, I endorse it too.
All right, there you go.
Starlink.
All right,
No, thanks again.
Thank you, Kevin. And folks, we'll be back soon with some more in the series for POTA Hunters. Until next time, 7-3.
POTA on.